Welcome to People Like You. Oak Park Christian Center has been in this community since the 1960s. From multicultural praise gatherings to youth basketball leagues, this church body works to connect with the community. It serves in interesting and helpful ways. Today, Pastor Sean Fitzhugh joins us to talk about the characteristics of Oak Park and to share his personal life-changing experience that don't go away.
I contracted what seemed to be like a head injury or like a neck injury. I looked in the mirror and I realized, I could not wake up tomorrow. I just went back to my bed and I prayed. Please allow me to walk out of this hospital like I walked in. Give me my faculties. And Lord, I will do whatever you want me to do. Give me a chance to live for you.
Welcome back. Sean Fitzhugh is the pastor of Oak Park Christian Center, and it's so nice to have him with us today. I appreciate you coming over.
Thanks for having us.
So tell us about Oak Park when it first opened its doors. What was that like?
Oh, it opened, I don't know what it was like. It was in the 1950s in Walnut Creek on LaCassie Street. And then it moved, it used to be Oak Park, not Oak Park, it used to be Walnut Creek Assembly.
Okay.
And then it moved to Oak Park Boulevard in Pleasant Hill in the 1960s, and then that's when they changed the name to Oak Park Assembly of God. And then sometimes I think it was the 1980s, it changed the name to Oak Park Christian Center.
So it has had quite a longevity in the community.
Long history, yeah,
yes.
That's right.
Okay, so when did you get involved?
I first came to Oak Park Christian Center on May 17th of 2004 to be the full-time youth pastor there.
So the community has really changed over the years.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, I grew up in the area and I remember Pleasant Hill before I was even pastoring there, and it used to be a very, it was a suburb, but kind of rural and not very nice, not a destination that you'd want to go shopping. It was just like you either lived there or you didn't.
Went somewhere else.
Right, and then the city of Pleasant Hill has done a great job turning that into kind of a destination for shopping and restaurants, and they have a beautiful downtown. And so kudos to the city of Pleasant Hill. They've done a good job.
And the 4th of July parade and the
That's
whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. So the Global Multicultural concert you had recently, that was actually something that you did with some other churches, which is kind of a unique experience.
Yeah, we get together with a bunch of other churches, ethnic churches from around the area, and we just get together and worship together in our own unique culture and style. And it just celebrates people praising Jesus in their own cultural context. And we do it all together, and it's just a lot of fun and just so much fun.
The reason I liked the sound of that was it kind of represents our community we live in, the Bay Area, all 9 Bay Area counties.
We were talking about that at the concert. We were like, where else but in California, in the Bay Area, could we have so many cultures all together in one place praising Jesus? It's like the kingdom of heaven, every tribe, language, and nation.
Right here on earth.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So Special Forces Ministry. Tell me about that.
Okay, so we have a ministry for people with developmental disabilities. They can be kids or adults, and we have a Sunday school for them, and they come in and they worship with us in our second service, and then they go off to their own service that's designed just for them. And people with special needs, families with people with special needs in them, are like 96% unchurched in the United States of America.
Wow.
And the reason is there's nothing at the typical church for people with special needs. And my senior pastor, Bill Matthews, has a son who's profoundly disabled.
Okay.
And so this ministry was birthed out of his heart to look after his son. And we have a number of people in our congregation with children that are adults with disabilities who just needed something. And we always wanted them to be a part of our body because they're our kids, they're our family members. But it took us a few years to figure out how we could actually do that. And
well,
got it going now.
I think what I like about the program is, we're all children of God.
Absolutely.
And we all need to be encouraged to worship.
Absolutely.
And be in an environment where we feel comfortable worshiping and have the tools.
Yeah.
So that's what the church is doing. It's not like you're isolating anyone out. You're actually uplifting them and holding an individual group up so that they have the tools to worship well.
We really believe that everyone matters at Oak Park Christian Center. Our vision is to build the generations and to reach the nations for Christ. And reaching the nations for Christ at first could sound missional, and it is. It's about missions. But nations are also people groups. And people with special needs are a people group that are very underserved and underreached in the United States of America. And we're sensitive to that because of family and friends within our church, you know.
Yes.
So.
But isn't it interesting also how the Lord places circumstances in our path and uses them for His purpose and for His glory, and how that can be done in this way.
It is really neat how God prepares us through life experience for what He wants us to do for His kingdom.
Which you're going to talk about today.
That's right.
Your life experience. You know, I visited your church recently. You didn't know in advance, but
oh, you were spying on us.
I stopped by. I was greeted so warmly.
That's great.
Felt welcomed. I didn't feel like you guys thought I was different and who is this person here. I felt welcomed. It was a great experience. Yes. And you actually spoke that morning on you know, healing in your life. And part of the reason, you know, I wanted you to come here today. But before we get there, Upwards basketball. Tell me, everybody's talking about this basketball program at the church.
Well, everyone's really excited about the Warriors going to the finals for the first time in like 40 years. But the real story in the Bay Area is Upward basketball at Oak Park Christian Center. We have the greatest sports league I've ever seen. It's for kids from the ages of K through first grade all the way up to the sixth grade. It's an instructional basketball league. And what it does is it gives every kid that plays an opportunity to have playing time. So every kid gets to play at least half of the game.
Fantastic.
And in the fourth and fifth and sixth grade, it ratchets up in the competitiveness. But in the grades below fourth to the kindergarten, it makes the game so that you're not doing like presses and zones, but it's like man-to-man defense. It matches kids based on their ability to kids with similar ability. The idea is that there won't be blowouts and that you won't have, you know, kids with hurt feelings from playing basketball. That can happen pretty easily if you get one kid that's really good.
Well, parents of kids that aren't playing, I mean, sometimes that can be like tough.
In Upward's a nationally syndicated ministry, a sports ministry. They have various, but we have basketball at our church now. And they have something called the Circle of Affirmation. And it's the parents affirm the coach, and the coach affirms the ref, and the ref affirms the kids. And we all, you know, even if a referee makes a call, these are volunteers, you know, people doing their best. If they make a call that's not the best call, good job, ref. And you know, it makes a dramatic difference in the atmosphere. It's such a positive environment. And we have testimonies at halftime that people share of what Christ has done in their life. And I love Upward basketball. I'm such a fan.
And you know, these kids can actually take these skills actually to school and to other locations.
It's a developmental league, and they teach every practice. Doesn't just teach the kid basketball, but they have a halftime at practice. And they have a devotional that shares the gospel with the kids in a way relevant to their age group.
All right, I have 30 seconds. One question: when you were at the age that you could play basketball, did you ever think you were going to be a pastor?
No, not in a million years.
I want to hear more about that. Much to cover with Sean, so don't go away.
And I remember going out of that hospital, they wheel you out in a wheelchair, and it was like being born again, but like really, like now this is your second shot at life. And I just really wanted to do, I meant it, whatever He wanted me to do, I was going to do it. And this started me on this journey of asking God every night, God, what do you want me to do with my life? You've given me a second chance. And about 6 months into it, through a vision, when I was praying at the altar at church, God gave me a vision of me preaching the gospel.
We're back with Sean, and I'm so happy you're here today. Now, you were raised in the Bay Area. You know it well.
Yeah, I was born in Walnut Creek, grew up in West Pittsburgh before they called it, you know, it used to be called Bay Point.
Yes.
and then it was West Pittsburgh before it was Bay Point, and then I grew up in Antioch my whole life.
And so when did you decide you needed Christ in your life? What was going on?
Well, I was 15 years old, and I was going fishing. I love to fish, and I was going fishing, and I had never been to church a day in my life. I grew up a PK, a pagan's kid. We didn't go to any church at all. We didn't pray. There was Easter was the bunny, and Christmas was about Santa Claus. And I mean, we just didn't know anything about the Lord, and no one had ever even told me the gospel once. And a man in a wheelchair called out to me to help him. when I was fishing on the dock at Contra Loma Reservoir.
All right.
And I just ran over to help this man because he sounded like he was in pain. He was kind of like crying when he called me. He said, "Young man." I come running over there, "Sir, are you okay?" And he's crying. And I'm like, "Do you need help?" And he reaches up and hands me a little shiny gospel tract. He says, "Would you please read this?" I had no idea what it was. And it was kind of weird.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do, so I kind of took the little shiny pamphlet to be polite, and I was like, "Is there anything else I can do for you?"
Aww.
And he's like, "No, just please read it." And he stopped crying. And I was like, "What's going on here?" So my mom taught me when things get weird, you go home. So I went home. And I went home, I put the thing in my pocket, got home and found it, opened it up. I was curious, so I read it. And for the first time in my life, that little leaflet told me that I was a sinner, that Jesus was the Son of God, who was born of the Virgin Mary, who had died to pay for the sins of the world, and that he rose from the dead, and I could be forgiven and go to heaven if I just put my faith in him. And the whole time I read that, I just was like, it's true, it's true, it's true. And I got on my knees in my bedroom by myself, and I read the little sinner's prayer on the gospel tract, and I gave my life to Christ that night at the age of 15 years old.
It's so amazing that, because I have seen many tracts.
Sure.
And you wonder how effective they can be.
Yeah.
But when God moves on someone,
Yeah.
and in this circumstance, that's the only way he had to reach you. And
You
it was
know,
so
and
effective.
it's funny because if someone had invited me to church, I wouldn't have gone with them. And if someone had told me about Christ, personally, I would have probably rejected them before they even got the chance to explain it. It was the way God needed to reach me.
Yeah. Did you feel something different? I mean,
I just
felt like it was true without
faith.
ever hearing it before.
I just had instant faith. I just knew it was true, and it didn't take me long to realize when it said that I was a sinner, to think about what I had done to my younger brother earlier that day, and went, yeah, I am a sinner. And I just believed, and I think that's the Holy Spirit giving you,
Yes.
you know, faith and drawing you to Himself.
Yes.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, reaching people is the work of the Lord.
Right.
And we just kind of get to assist in that.
And what I like to point out here too is it's seed faith. You know, we never know what we do or say
That's
or
right.
how they, you know, someone looks at us, or when we hand out a tract or invite them or a phone number for prayer.
Sure.
We don't know how God's going to use it. We just need to do it.
I don't know who that man was.
Yeah.
I never got his name. I never saw him again. And if he's watching today, please contact me and let me know who you are, because you reached me.
You changed my life.
Yeah, totally.
What happened next?
Well, what happened next was I was a high schooler who had faith, but I didn't know that I should read a Bible. I started praying, and I didn't go to church at all.
Cool.
And I started praying, actually, kind of embarrassingly, for God to help me get a wife, because I had had terrible failure in romantic relationships. Girls were rejecting me left and right.
At 15.
At 16 now.
Okay.
I was miserable failure.
I know, but there's I
So I
gotta
needed-
say,
I
I
needed-
don't
I
see
knew-
anything wrong with that prayer.
I knew I needed help. And so I prayed and asked God for a wife. And I kid you not, like 2 months later, Leslie, my wife, came and approached me and wanted to know if I'd be interested in dating her. Well, it helped that she was beautiful. And I said yes. And she goes, "Well, are you a Christian?" I said, "Yes, I'm a Christian." She said, "I'm a Christian too." She says, "Why don't we go to church together?" And I said, "Well, I don't know about church." And she says, "That's too bad. I'm going to have to find a boyfriend who will go with me to church." And I said, "What time does it start?" And so we started going to church, and that was a new experience for me. I was unchurched, and to go into a church for the first time, I thought everyone was on drugs because they were all so happy. And when I walked in, everyone was shaking my hand, and they were so friendly, they were glad to see me. I'm like, I don't know you people. I was very distrustful
Yes.
naturally. I mean, growing up in West Pittsburgh and Antioch, it wasn't violence, but we all fought all the time, like cats and dogs. So I kind of had this chip on my shoulder, and God just cut right through that with love. And I was at Golden Hills Baptist Church, that's where I went. Pastor Larry Adams is still the pastor there.
He still is there.
And he was the first person I ever heard preach.
All right, so Leslie's your wife, and you like this church. We got to go to a break, but I can't wait to hear more. And you also, the Lord's also healed you in a circumstance, so we want to maybe talked about that. But if there is an area in your life that you need help, or actually healing, and you want to join us for prayer, or want to know more about this church, stay with us.
It was like being born again. But like really, like now this is your second shot at life.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to do I meant it. Whatever he wanted me to do, I was going to do it. And this started me on this journey of asking God every night, God, what do you want me to do with my life? You've given me a second chance. And about 6 months into it, through a vision, when I was praying at the altar at church, God gave me a vision of me preaching the gospel. And that's how I got my call into ministry.
Welcome back. So your first day in church, and you're with a girlfriend, Leslie, who I know now is your wife, but I got to hear what happened.
Well, so we kept going to church together and going, dating one another, and it was all good and dandy, and we got baptized together in a pool, and she dumped me the day we got baptized because I wasn't a good enough Christian, and it was miserable. I repented nearly immediately, and she took me back, thankfully, and I've been, you know, I did a better job of faking like I was a good Christian for her for a while. Because I was trying to do.
I honestly appreciate your honesty here, Sean.
I was trying to be one of the guys and be tough and be macho, but also play church for mainly her sake. And it caught up with me. All this is new to you. Yeah, it caught up with me big time. I graduated high school and I went and lived with my dad, who had divorced my mom when I was 10 for the first time since I was 10. We lived together. We were bachelors together. That was a bad recipe.
That's probably not a good idea.
It was a bad recipe. And doing a lot of dumb things, and details aren't important, but it was dumb. And I was going to church occasionally. I'd skip church a lot to go fishing, and Leslie used to get mad at me. And well, one day I contracted what seemed to be like a head injury or like a neck injury, but I wasn't in a car accident. And I went to the doctor, and they gave me a spinal tap, and they determined that it was viral spinal meningitis, which is extremely serious. And if you know anything about medicine, they can't really do anything for a virus. No. They give you painkillers and fluids and give you the best opportunity to survive it medically. And
not be paralyzed.
Yeah, and it does. It eats the space between the spinal cord and the bone. There's the meninges in there, and it lives in there, and it can do damage to the brain and the nerve system. And it can be fatal, and it often does debilitate people. And so I was in the hospital for 3 days. At that time, it was Mount Diablo in Concord. Now it's John Muir Concord. And in 3 days, I lost like almost 40 pounds of body weight, and because your body's fighting so hard. And at the third day I was in that hospital, I looked in the mirror, and I realized, you know, I could not wake up tomorrow. Yeah. This could kill me. And I just went back to my bed and I prayed. And I remember my prayer almost verbatim. I said, "Dear Lord, we both know that I say I'm a Christian, but we both know that's not really true. Please forgive me for throwing mud in your eye. And please allow me to walk out of this hospital like I walked in. Give me my faculties. And Lord, I will do whatever you want me to do. Give me a chance to live for you." Amen. I went to bed. They brought me my, painkillers, and I woke up the next day, and they were unhooking the IV out of me, and a little clipboard on my chest. I said, "Mr. Fitzhugh, the fever broke in the middle of the night. You've been fever-free for 13 hours now. We're sending you home." And I remember going out of that hospital. They wheel you out in a wheelchair, and it was like being born again. Wow. But like really, like now this is your second shot at life. Yeah. And I just really wanted to do, I meant it. Whatever he wanted me to do, I was going to do it. And this started me on this journey of asking God every night, God, what do you want me to do with my life? You've given me a second chance. And about 6 months into it, through a vision, when I was praying at the altar at church, God gave me a vision of me preaching the gospel. Really? And that's how I got my call into ministry. And from there, we just kind of took that serious and quit jobs and went to Bible college and we were married now. Okay. And brought our 14-month-old son to Bible college at Bethany. And so we went there, and I got into full-time ministry, and that's how I became a pastor.
I loved the sermon you shared. I could feel the presence of God there, and you were so open and raw and told your testimony about a knee injury and how the Lord helped you. Ankle. It was ankle. It was leg. You were having some more issues.
I was playing basketball,
Yes, you
and
were.
I jumped to get a rebound, and I'm not very athletic. So
You're
when
not
I
a
came,
warrior,
I
I
came
guess.
down. I'm not a warrior. No, they don't need me. They don't want me. I came down on another person's foot,
Yeah.
and my ankle rolled, and the bottom of my foot touched my leg. The wrong part,
Yeah.
completely upside
Yeah.
down, and I instantly lost feeling. I thought I had snapped it completely off, and it was just hanging there by flesh. Freaked me out, and I just began to pray right there on the basketball court. All the guys are gathered around.
Yeah,
They're
like,
like,
what
I
is
don't know what's
going
going
on
on here. And went to the doctor, and they took the X-ray, and they said, "Yep, it's broken." Before they told me it was broken, I could see the fat marker line across the ankle bone, and I was like, "Oh man!" And I was getting ready to go on a mission trip to Nicaragua, where we were going on a 2-hour boat ride into the jungle, where they didn't even have sidewalks.
Right.
It's like literally on the grass. And I was like, Lord, I can't go on this trip with the broken ankle. And so the prayer director at our church came and prayed for me one day, and I didn't have a lot of faith. I was pretty dejected. And that day before youth, right before you started, God instantly, miraculously healed my ankle. And I played basketball with the guys that night, and Kaiser had called me because they wanted me to see a specialist because they thought I might need surgery to fix the break. I never went to the doctor.
Never went to the doctor.
Yeah.
See, Sean, we got 60 seconds. There's so much we could cover. I wish we could go longer. But who does God heal? Who does he save?
Well, anyone who looks to him and has faith, and God responds to it. You know, Hebrews talks about without faith it's impossible to please God. But you've got to believe that he rewards those who earnestly seek him.
Who was invited to come visit Oak Park?
Anybody. We love everyone to come.
And those that are praying for a husband, those who are praying for healing,
Yeah.
those who are searching
Right.
to fill the void, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I mean, look to God. If you look to God, he can take care of all of your needs according to his riches and glory. And when he owns everything, that means he can take care of you.
Well, I appreciate you being here with us today. For more information about Pastor Sean, Oak Park Christian Center, Upwards Basketball, or any other of their great programs, visit opccag.org or ktln.tv. Remember that KTLN is a donor-supported ministry, and programs like this one are made possible through your support. Thanks for being with us, and join us again next week.